Hey everybody, it's Tim Hepworth here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters and Thursday Night Live Fly Tying, and I'm here to bring you another quick tie. Tonight we are tying from episode 9 of season 4, and I'm going to be taking you through this beautiful fly here called the Klinkhammer. Alright, one of the true favorites of mine. I'm excited to take you through it. Here's our kits that we have, our season 4 kits. If you have one of these, let's go ahead and pull it out. If you do not already have one of these and you wish to purchase one, you can head over to our website at www.flyfishingbover.com /TNL S4 and pick yours up today. And also, if you don't want to buy one of these kits, that's totally okay. At the same website, you're going to find all the information, material lists, and everything for these flies to use your own materials and tie along. Okay? So we're going to open this up. We're going to head on over to our season 4, episode 9 kit. In the back, you're going to see two different patterns in there. The one with the yellow foam is not the one we're using. We're going to use the other one. So go ahead and pull that out. Let's head on over to the vise. Here's the hook we are using for our Klinkhammer today. So we need a hook specifically shaped like this to create the pattern that we want to do. And so that's what we're tying on. I'm using some olive thread, and this is going to be in a 70 denier. I don't want something too crazy thick, so I went with something a little lighter. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start our thread just behind the eye, and we're going to run it back just a little ways, lay a nice little thread base to the eye, and then bring my thread back to about 1 eye length back from the eye. I'm going to come in here and trim out my tag. Now, there's not a lot of materials in this one, guys, but the techniques are a little bit finicky, so stick with me as we go through this. In your kit, you have a big piece of parapost. It looks like a lot, but when you scrunch it down, it's not very thick. So I want you to take this as is, tie it right in on top. Make sure it's right on top of the hook. Do a couple of thread wraps to make sure it's secure. We're going to take that and pull it straight up. Okay, now I'm going to take some thread wraps behind, take some thread wraps on both sides, and then the next part here that does get a little bit more difficult is we need to start going around and up, creating a post. We need a post of this material to build the style of a merger wing we want to hold this in the water column. So I'm going to start working. You're going to realize once you start putting some thread wraps down, it starts to feel more secure, and you can work your way up a little. Now, it's always a tough thing to judge. How high do I go up on this parapost? Well, you need enough room for our hackle to come back down. And when you're looking at it, I always like to think of it as basically 2 eye lengths. So if I turn that eye over so you can see it, about 2 of those vertical up that parapost. So I'm going to go just a little bit further. Make sure you don't get any of that material trapped down there. I'm going to go to right about there. And I'm going to come back down. And now here's just about creating a little bit of bulk. So now just create some bulk on the base that you've laid down. Once I get it to where I like it, I want it to be perfectly vertical. So I'm going to pull up on it like that. What I'm going to do is a little trick that I like is I go on over to my Solar Res Bone Dry UV resin. I'm just going to put one little touch right on there. Not very much at all. I'm going to cure it. And what that's going to do is help support that. And it's not going to be as flexible or move on me when I'm trying to wrap my feathers up here in a few minutes. Okay. Now that's a lot stiffer. You can see that that bottom part doesn't want to move at all. Okay. Now I am going to come and trim this just a little bit. Not close. I just want to get that excess out of the way as I'm trying to work here. Okay. Next thing we're going to do, guys, we're going to take this, a couple more wraps. Now, while I'm already up here, well, actually, probably best what we're going to do first, we're going to go lay the rest of that thread base down. So I like to lay a nice thread base as deep down into this hook bend as we can get, so that what it doesn't do is when we put on our next material, it's not as slippery for it and it doesn't want to slide around. So we'll bring it right back down to the bottom. And now we're going to make another little dubbing noodle out of this nice tan color. So we gave to you in your kit. It's going to be really light dubbing. Key here, guys, is we're not using a lot of it. Just a wisp. This is a good chance to practice your dubbing noodle being extremely even. So I want very little on there, but I want it nice and evenly spaced out. And if you're really good, you might even add a little taper on the end of each side. But I'm going to make about a 3-inch long dubbing noodle. And I'm going to start right down in the base here, making sure that's super tight on the thread. I'm going to start laying, and basically we want to just cover up our wraps. We don't want to create a ton of bulk, but we do want it to start thin at the bottom and gain some bulk as we go up. So you might see me pause and wrap a little extra in some spots. And that's just to try to create that tapered body starting to grow as we go up. And if I need to add a little bit more dubbing, then I add a little bit more dubbing. I'm going to put just a little bit more on. That taper's looking pretty nice. It's going to look nice and buggy once this is under the water. And we're going to leave a little bit of space behind the post because we need to still put another material in. Good. I like the way that looks. Now that I'm up to this point, I'm just going to come in here and trim a little bit of those guys that are just kind of out on their own. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep my hackle feather to go in before I put in the last little base, because we're actually I'm going to teach you how to whip finish this on the post. Now don't get freaked out. It's actually not as bad as it sounds. I'll take you through it. Okay, so I've got my hackle feather here. You got one in your kit. It's going to be brown in color. What I want to do so that it's oriented the way I need it to be when I flip it and roll it back down is you're going to see a top side and a bottom side. I want the bottom side tied in against the post. So when I come in here to tie this in, I need to make sure I leave enough of the bare stem that I've created so that I'm not wrapping any of the hackle feathers down. So if I was on this side of the fly so you can see a little better, I need to leave some bare post on my stem to match the bare amount of post that I have on the fly. I'm going to tie it in on the near side to me. And I'm going to really secure that right down to the eye before I come in and trim out that little bit of tag. I'm going to move my thread back up. And now, like I said before, I got to make sure I have the underside against the post. I'm going to come up and start wrapping my thread back up that post, securing that feather against the post itself. And go right up to the top, right where you left everything else. And then we're going to come back down. All right. Trim out that little bit of extra. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come right back to the back where we left off that dubbing. And I'm going to get you to go in and grab, we have some peacock herl in here. It can be a little brittle, it kind of not always the best material to work with, but what it does is it just gives you the perfect color of what we want for the thorax. I'm going to break off those brittle tips. I'm going to tie this in right here. Can be a little slippery too, so leave a little bit of a tag for yourself to attach further down like so. I'm going to put a little half hitch in right there just to save that for a moment. And now keeping these two together, I'm going to wrap right from the back of where I left that dubbing, go right against the post, come in front of the post, work my way to here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of in one swoop here, I'm going to bring my thread back up through against the post and trap the herl against the post itself. So the post is going to look straight up. You can tell, you can't see the thread. It's hidden in that herl quite nicely. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to trim the herl out. And while you're at it, you see any of that little wing material kind of in the way, just trim that out as well. But now that I'm back against the wing, okay, I'm back against that post. I like to lay it like so, and this is the key here to making this a lot easier on yourself. I'm going to take this in my vise, and I'm going to allow it to tip down. Re-secure it here. I'm going to have to go a little higher so I can hopefully keep this in our frame. And so you can see it like there, okay? Now, the only reason I do this is it just creates a little bit easier space for me to work with, and now it's at the right angle that I'm able to just start wrapping my hackle back down and whip finish it here. So the key here, guys, is I want the underside of that feather to be sending those fibers from that feather pointed upwards, and so they don't push down, because then they're all going to want to come down against the base of the fly where I don't want them to be. So that first wrap is so important. Doesn't matter which way you go. What's important is that you manage to orientate the feather properly, which I've got it here, started the right way. Start right at the top of the post, and you should be somewhere in that 4 to 5 wraps to get down. Just keep wrapping. Once I get down to the base of the base of that post, I'm gonna bring my thread in right up against where I left that feather. And now this, finishing off this fly isn't gonna feel so foreign because it's orientated as if you were tying on the hook shank right now. So I've got it like so. Everything's where I need it to be. All I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna come in and whip finish this right on the post. So treat it as if it's the eye of the hook. Come around. We're gonna do a 2 or 3 turn whip finish, trying not to trap too many of those hackle fibers. Pull that tight. I'm going to trim that thread out. And then I'm going to trim out the tag end of this feather. Right nice and close. And if you have any little pieces of hackle that came down and got pushed, just go ahead and trim those out of the way, like I'm going to do here. Just like that. There we have it, guys. That's our Klinkhammer. I'm going to reorientate it, trim the post. You can add a little head cement to that if you like. How tall you want that post to be is all personal preference. I don't like to leave an excess amount up top. I'm going to leave it about like that. And there you have it. There is your Klinkhammer.
Badass.
Tie it in a lot of different colors. Make sure you got a ton of different sizes in your box. It's one of my all-time favorite flies as an emerger. You'll never find my boxes without them in it. Okay, guys, that is another awesome quick tie. Again, this is the Klinkhammer. My name's Tim Hepworth. I'm here with Fly Fishing Bover Outfitters. I want to remind you to go head on over and subscribe to this page. Let us know if you were here. If you're part of that replay squad, we'd like to know you're here, and you might just be lucky enough to get in on a giveaway or two. Click that little bell so you also get notifications coming through to you when any new video comes out. Until next time on the next quick tie, it's Tim Hepworth. We'll see you then.